The bell of Moat House Castle at Tunstall rang loudly one spring afternoon. The people of the village looked up at the castle.
"What's happening?"
asked one man.
"I don't know,"
said another.
"A messenger brought a letter for Sir Oliver Oates, the priest, half an hour ago. It was from Sir Daniel Brackley."
"But why is the bell ringing?"
asked an old man. Suddenly, a handsome young man appeared on his grey horse. He was about 18 years old, and had brown hair and blue eyes. He had a bow and arrow on his back. His name was Richard Shelton, and he was Sir Daniel's ward. Richard Shelton looked at the people around him and said,
"There will be a big battle soon. Sir Daniel wants everyone to fight."
"Another battle?"
cried an angry woman.
"This is terrible. Our men go and die in battles, and their wives and children are hungry."
"We pay high taxes to Sir Daniel, and we don't have any money for food,"
said a young mother with 3 small children.
"Who is Sir Daniel fighting for today?"
asked a tall man.
"Lancaster or York?"
"I'm sorry, I don't know,"
said Richard, and his face became red. Sir Daniel Brackley was not a loyal man, and the people did not like him. He seemed to always change his mind. Sometimes he fought for Lancaster, and sometimes he fought for York. A big man on a black horse appeared. It was Bennet Hatch, Sir Daniel's best friend. He was about 40 and had dark hair and an unfriendly face.
"All of the men in the village must go to Moat House Castle and get ready for the battle,"
Hatch cried. Then Hatch looked at Richard and said,
"Let's go to Nick Appleyard's house."
When they arrived, Hatch said,
"Nick Appleyard, you must go and defend Moat House Castle, because Sir Daniel is going to Ketley to fight."
While the 2 men were talking, a black arrow suddenly hit Nick Appleyard in the back and killed him.
"Oh no!"
cried Richard.
"Appleyard is dead. Someone in the forest shot this black arrow."
"Look, there's a message on the arrow,"
said Hatch.
"What does it say, Richard?"
Richard took the arrow and read,
"For Appleyard, from John, to make things right." What a strange message.
"It's dangerous here. Let's go to the church,"
said Hatch. There were about 20 men on their horses outside the church. They were ready to fight.
"Sir Daniel will be pleased with these brave men,"
said Hatch.
"Look at the church door,"
said Richard.
"There's a letter on it."
"A letter on the church door?" said Sir Oliver, surprised. He was the priest of the village, and Sir Daniel's good friend. "Young Richard, please read it." Richard took the letter off the door and read it aloud.
"I have 4 black arrows. The first arrow killed Appleyard. The next one will kill Bennet Hatch, because he burnt Grimstone House. Another arrow is for Sir Oliver Oates, because he killed Sir Harry Shelton. Sir Daniel will get the 4th arrow. From John of the Greenwood and his men. P.S. Remember, we have other arrows for your men."
"We live in a terrible world. I'm a good man, I did not kill Sir Harry Shelton, cried Sir Oliver Oates.
We know you're a good, honest man, Sir Oliver,
said Hatch. Then he whispered something in Sir Oliver's ear and looked at Richard. Sir Harry Shelton was Richard's father. Richard saw this, but he said nothing. I must write a letter to Sir Daniel and tell him what happened, said Sir Oliver. When the letter was ready, he said, Richard, take this important letter to Sir Daniel immediately. Be careful on the road, because it can be very dangerous. Richard took the letter and went to get his horse. Hatch followed him.
Richard,
he said quietly,
you're a brave, honest young man. Listen to me. Be careful of Sir Daniel. Don't trust him, and don't trust Sir Oliver. They're dangerous men.
Richard was surprised and started thinking.
Thank you, my friend,
he said. Then he got on his grey horse and galloped away. Chapter 2. John Matcham. Sir Daniel Brackley sat next to the fire at the sign of the Sun Inn in Ketley. He was a tall man of about 40. He was bald and had a big nose and black eyes. He collected taxes all day, and now he was thinking about how he could make more money. Sir Daniel was a very greedy man, and did many bad things. A thin young boy was sitting near the door of the inn. He was very sad.
Come here, John,
said Sir Daniel. The young boy was about 13, and had blonde hair and blue eyes. He was wearing dirty, old clothes and a big brown hat. Sir Daniel looked at him and laughed.
You make me laugh, John.
Don't laugh at me.
Said John angrily.
I don't like it.
Oh, let me laugh,
said Sir Daniel.
I'll plan a good marriage for you. You'll see. And I'll make a lot of money with this marriage,
thought Sir Daniel.
Lord Shoreby will pay me well.
The young boy went to sit down again. Some time later, Richard came into the inn.
Ah, Richard, my brave boy,
said Sir Daniel.
Sit down and eat. You're probably hungry and thirsty.
Here's an important letter from Sir Oliver,
said Richard, giving him the letter. Sir Daniel read it, and he was worried.
Richard, the letter on the church door is a lie,
said Sir Daniel.
Sir Oliver did not kill your poor father. Ellis Duckworth killed your father, but he escaped, and we never found him.
Did this happen at Moathouse Castle?
Asked Richard, looking into Sir Daniel's eyes.
It happened between Moathouse and Holywood,
answered Sir Daniel.
But now, sit down and eat. I must answer Sir Oliver's letter, and then you can take it back to him in Tunstall.
While Richard was eating, he heard a soft voice near his ear.
Please don't turn around, but tell me the way to Holywood.
Take the road by the old church,
Richard whispered. He did not turn around, but he saw the boy leave the inn quietly.
Take this message to Tunstall immediately,
said Sir Daniel to Richard. Then he looked around the inn and said,
Where is that girl, that boy, John?
He left the inn about an hour ago,
said Richard.
I must find him,
cried Sir Daniel. He turned to one of his men and said,
James, take 6 men and go and find that boy.
Richard left the inn with the message. He rode his horse all night, and early the next morning he was near a marsh. In the marsh he saw a young boy on his horse, but the horse was not moving.
"You're the boy from the inn,"
said Richard.
"I saw you last night."
Yes, I am.
He said,
I'm lost, and my horse hurt his leg in the marsh. Now he can't move.
"The poor horse,"
said Richard.
"I'm sorry, but I must kill it. Please get off."
When the boy got off, he killed the horse.
Can you help me go to Holywood, Master Shelton?
Asked the boy.
"Yes, I can.
Said Richard.
But who are you?"
Call me John Matcham.
Said the boy.
"Why do you want to go to Holywood, John?"
Asked Richard.
There's a kind friar at Holywood, and he'll protect me.
Said John.
"Protect you?"
Asked Richard.
Yes, he'll protect me from Sir Daniel Brackley.
Said the boy.
He's a very bad man. He took me from my home and gave me these dirty clothes to wear.
"But I know Sir Daniel,"
said Richard.
"He's not an evil man."
He's evil and greedy, believe me.
Said the boy.
One day you'll understand why.
He was silent for a moment, and then said,
I heard that you are going to get married soon.
"What?"
said Richard, laughing.
"And who am I going to marry?"
Joanna Sedley.
Said the boy.
Sir Daniel planned the marriage.
"Oh,
Said Richard, and his face became red.
but I don't know her."
Suddenly they heard a noise, and saw Sir Daniel's 7 men on the hill.
Sir Daniel's men.
Cried the boy.
They're looking for me.
"Don't worry, I'll take you to Holywood. I promise."
Said Richard.
"Get on my horse quickly."
John smiled at his new friend, and together they galloped into the dark forest. Chapter 3. Moat House Castle. Richard and John rode through the dark forest of Tunstall, where the tall trees moved in the wind. They stopped when they found a big, burnt house.
"This house looks like Grimstone,"
Said Richard.
Grimstone?
Asked John.
What's that?
"It was Ellis Duckworth's house until Bennet Hatch burnt it down 5 years ago. It was a very beautiful house before the fire."
Behind the house, they saw some men sitting around a fire. They were wearing old, dark clothes, and each man had a bow and arrow. They were eating and talking like old friends, and some were laughing. Suddenly, a man up a tall tree cried,
"I see 7 of Sir Daniel's men coming here."
Is Sir Daniel with them?
Asked a handsome man.
"No, I can't see him."
Answered the man on the tall tree.
Let's attack them!
Cried the handsome man.
Go to your places, quickly!
"I must go and tell Sir Daniel's men about the attack."
Said Richard to John.
But why?
Asked John, surprised.
They're looking for me. You promised to take me to Holywood. You can't leave me now.
"You're right, John,"
Said Richard.
"I'll take you to Holywood."
Richard remembered his promise. The men in the forest took their bows and arrows and ran to their places. They started attacking Sir Daniel's men. When the attack was over, one of the men in the forest saw Richard and wanted to kill him.
No, don't!
Cried the handsome man. It was Ellis Duckworth, the leader of the band of the Black Arrow.
This boy is Harry's son. We mustn't hurt him. Bring him to me immediately. I want to talk to him.
Richard heard him and said,
"Oh no, let's run away from here, John. Quickly!"
The two boys ran to the top of a hill, and two men followed them. John was tired, but he continued running. They soon reached another forest, and Richard said,
"No one is following us now. We're safe."
I can't walk or run any more.
said John.
I'm very tired.
"Tired?"
Said Richard.
"What kind of a boy are you?"
John looked at him and started crying.
"Oh, please don't cry,"
said Richard, smiling.
"Look, there's a river. Let's go and drink some cold water."
Later, when it was dark, they fell asleep under a tree. The next morning they woke up and were hungry, but they had nothing to eat. Suddenly they heard a noise coming from the forest. They saw a friar walking towards them. His head was covered with a big hood. He stopped near them and took off his hood.
"Sir Daniel!"
cried Richard.
"This is a surprise. What are you doing here? And why are you dressed like a friar?"
Richard,
said Sir Daniel.
we lost the battle against York. It was a terrible battle, and most of my men were killed. I am wearing friar's clothes so I can escape. Now I'm going home to Moat House Castle.
Sir Daniel gave them both some bread and cheese. Richard and John ate quickly because they were very hungry.
I'm surprised to see you two boys together,
said Sir Daniel.
but now you're both coming with me. Do you understand?
"Very well, Sir Daniel,"
said Richard.
Yes, sir.
said John quietly. Richard and John followed Sir Daniel, and they soon arrived at the castle. Before going in, John said,
Well, Richard, now we must say goodbye.
"But why?"
said Richard.
"We're both going to Moat House Castle. We're good friends, and we can see each other all the time."
You won't see me any more,
said John sadly.
and I can't explain why. I must do what Sir Daniel says. But remember, Richard, be careful of Sir Daniel.
Richard did not like this mystery and wanted to know more.
"Goodbye, my young friend,"
said Richard sadly. Moat House Castle was a stone castle with a drawbridge, a moat, and 4 tall towers. There were now only 22 men in the castle, because a lot of them were killed during the last battle against York. These men were afraid of the band of the Black Arrow, because the band lived in the forest near the castle. Richard went to his bedroom and closed the door. It was a big, cold room near the top of the castle. He did not have many things inside, just a large bed, a table, and chair. Richard liked the room because it was somewhere he could stay on his own and think. Now he went to sit on the bed so he could think about all the recent events.
"What's happening at Moat House Castle?"
he thought.
"Why can't I see my friend John Matcham any more? Why is everyone telling me to be careful of Sir Daniel? Who is Joanna Sedley? How can I marry her if I don't know her?"
Richard was very confused and looked out of the small window in his room. He could see the big forest, and he started thinking about the letter from John of the Greenwood.
"The letter says Sir Oliver killed my father,"
he thought.
"but Sir Daniel says the letter is not true. He says Ellis Duckworth killed him. Did Ellis Duckworth really kill him? I don't believe Sir Daniel, because I think he's hiding something from me. But what? I want to know the truth. I must know the truth. And only Sir Daniel can answer my questions.